Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. As you saw in the last episode, we managed to get the bike running. We did have to use a jump pack to do that, or a battery charger to do that. So what we're going to look at doing in this episode is getting the final bits and pieces on the bike, doing a few more checks, getting it all ready for an MOT. So what I'll do now is I'll turn the camera around and show you what's on the bench and what we've got left to do. So as you can see on the bench here, we've now got a set of new front indicators because the old ones seems to have got water in there and one of them wasn't working properly, so I've got a new set of those. We've got one of the grips that we've got to glue back on because this was spinning, so we need to get that sorted. We've got the rear passenger foot pegs, which I've had all cleaned and painted, so we're going to pop those back on. We've got a new battery, which then we can put the seat on afterwards. I've got a full-size number plate over there. We've got a tyre which I'll get done at the MOT place when I get the MOT done. And then we've got just the remainder of some of these panels that we need to put back on. And then, as I was saying, we'll do a couple more checks and then the rest of these panels can go on. So what we'll do is we get on with that now. We're just in the process of unboxing the battery. So you get some new bolts and then just the threaded inserts that sit in behind the battery there as the terminals. So these just tuck in down in here like that. Just putting those in lightly so they don't go missing when we pop the battery in. So we just hook the rubber strap over just to hold that on. Pop some of these back in place. Nip that up and pop all the cover over it. I've noticed as well there was a bit of black tape on this wire here where somebody's done a previous repair. So what I will do is I'll just cut that out and put one of those nice soldered connectors in there, or a heat shrink style connector in there. I'm not going to put the seat back on just yet because I want to test to make sure the battery starts the bike, and I want to fit the front indicators and make sure they're all working first, so I'll pop the seat back on in a minute. So now we jump to the indicators. So with these indicators here, we've just got two bullet style connectors that then just pop into these two female connectors. So these are the male ones, and then we've got the female here. And then all that happens to hold this indicator in place is there's just a plastic nut. So this will sit in the bike fairing here, and then the nuts on the inside, and that's all hidden by the fillet panels that we'll put in once we've plugged in these and check that they're working. So I've now managed to get the offside indicator in. As you can see just here, I've gone for the smoke style ones, just in keeping with the colour of the bike. So I've plugged it in as well. We'll give it a test in a second, but basically what I've had to do is, looking at this one here, just on this bottom section here, I've just sort of filed the edge away ever so slightly. I think it's where I've had the fairings painted, maybe the paint's a little bit thicker, or that just these are sort of, you know, not a particularly expensive indicator. It might well just be that they're a bit sort of cheaply made and therefore they don't quite fit right. I did check them against the old ones that I've got. As you can see, these ones have all fallen apart. I did check them and they're pretty much the same size. So as I say, it's just a case of taking a file to the edge there. So I'll do that on this side, but sorry, on the other side. But what I'll do just before I do that is I'll just show you this one that I've put in working. So as you can see, that one's now working. So it's just a case of tidying up this wiring, tucking this back up in under here, and then we can put the fillet panel in. So what we'll do, I'll get on with fitting the other side now. So I ended up having a bit of a mishap trying to fit one of the, this side in with the smoke lens on. So what I ended up doing was just taking the lens caps off of these ones and just refitting the clear lenses back on there. So we've just got that one there, and then we've got that one in there. So now it's just a case of tying the wiring up and tucking that back up underneath in here, and then we can look at getting those panels on. So we'll look at doing that now. So I've just folded that wiring back up on itself and then just tied it in neatly up here. Just cut the end of the tie off. Yeah, I'll do the same for this side. So just sort of folding it up on itself like that, and then we'll just tie it up with some of the existing wiring that we've got. So that's that tied up there. And we just cut the end of the tie off. Look at getting these panels in here. So that all tucks up and in there. Something like that, I believe. I have checked the cooling level as well, so what I'm going to do while I'm here is just pop this one back in, and that just sits up in here. So I've then got this fillet panel which just sits up behind where the R1 sticker is up there, and then I've got this other panel here which I've just got to pop in up here as well. Right, so finally finished fighting with that clip, so that's good. So we can look at getting So I've just got some grip glue here. I'm just going to run over all of the grip, where the grip will sit here. I've just put a cloth there as well so that none of it hopefully gets on any of the fairing on the bike, because it's quite sticky, this stuff, quite tough to get off once it's dried. So it's just a case of spreading it all over like that. Taking your glove off so you don't get it all over the grip. And then just sliding the grip on. Right up to the stop. And what we'll do, we just pop the bar end back on. There we go, there's that bit. So I just picked the camera up here. While we were fitting the foot pegs over here, I've also gone and repaired that bit of wiring underneath there, underneath the seat there. So I've just put in a soldered joint connector just to tidy that up, so that's now waterproof and sealed. And it's just a reliable connection as opposed to what was there before, which was just a bit of a blob of solder and then covered up by black tape. So we've now got that in place, so we can look at putting the seat on. Just 2 bolts up behind the back of the seat here. It's quite flexible, so you can just sort of fold the seat slightly out of the way, and then there's just a plastic sort of piece here that just clips into the front underneath the tank. So what I'm going to look at doing now is setting the chain tension. So what you need to do is spin the wheel a few times, just like so, and then you need to find the tightest point. As you can see, that's really, really tight. If we look at that from a measurement point, we can see we've got barely any play in there whatsoever. So what we're looking to try and achieve is between, I think the manual's 25 and 35 mil. So what we'll do now, we'll loosen off the back wheel. We can loosen these adjusters either side, and you also just need to be mindful as well. You've got some little markings in here where you can just adjust it, but make sure that the wheel is perfectly straight. Loosen that off. Then what we're going to do is just undo the locking nut here. So wind that out the way a bit. So you've got a bit of free play here. And then what you can do as well, just count the number of turns that you turn it in. So So we do the same on the other side now. So we're starting to get a bit of slack in there, and I'm just checking as well that these lines are the same on either side, and just keep the wheel pushed in as well. So we've got, I'll put it in the middle there at about 30 mil, so between the two we just lock this back off. Doesn't need to be tight, these ones particularly, but just ensure that this doesn't spin as well. Then just check your line markings here again. I'm just holding the wheel against the stops there and then just tighten it up. I only want to pinch it up for a second just so I can rotate it and check for free play. So just rotate it a few times and then that's at 30 mil, so it's perfect. So we've just got to torque up that bolt or the nut. So just grab the torque wrench. I've set it to the manufacturer specs from the manual. So that's now torqued up to spec, which is great. So what I've now done for the R1 is I've gone and got myself a set of the throttle body sinking gauges, because what I need to do is get all the throttle bodies balanced. So now that we've done the valve clearances, we just need to make sure that they're balanced so that the bike's running smoothly, that it idles nicely as well. So we needed to get these. So I'll put a link in the description for these ones that I got. But basically these are just sort of an entry level set from what I understand. As you can see in the kit itself here, we've got just the general paperwork for this. So the bits and pieces just to read through. So you've got the synchronisation for 2-cylinder, more than 2-cylinder engines and so on. So we've then got the 4 gauges. I'll just take that foam out of the way. We've got the 4 gauges here, which we've got on a nice sort of mounting bracket. And these ones here as well, which is really important, they've got the adjusters here. So what we can do is we can adjust the bounce, which you'll see later in the video, the bounce on the needle, just so we can get a more accurate reading. And the reading's a lot steadier so that when we adjust it, we can see what we're looking at and the needles aren't just bouncing around. We've got some of these clips here. Just the spring-loaded clips here, which will go onto the rubber pipes, which you get supplied in the kit for these 4 gauges. And then you've got all these different little end pieces that you can put into the pipes here or into the pipes that are on the bike itself. So what I'll do now is I'll get these pipes onto these gauges here, get these clips in place, and then I will look at putting this onto the bike itself, and then I can basically just run through and show you how these work and how to adjust the throttle bodies on the R1, and yeah, we'll go from there. So as you can see, what I've done is I've just laid the gauges down here just on the top of the bike. I've taken out these blanking pieces that basically just go between the pipes which come out of the throttle body on the bike itself. So what I've just done is I've just used some connectors which are very similar to this sort of stuff that you would use to connect washer jets together and washer jet pipes and stuff like that. So basically I've got the cylinders 1 to 4 as they sit on the bike, so then I know which one I'm looking at when it comes to adjusting them. And then what I've done is I've just marked 2 of the pipes so that I know which ones go back together, because the pipes do join. So cylinder 1 and 3 has this blank between the 2 vacuum hoses, and then the same for this one here. So what I'll look at doing is I'll start the bike up, I'll look to get the idle right, and then once I've got the idle in place, I can adjust these gauges ever so slightly using these little dials here, just to stop, as I mentioned earlier, the needle from bouncing too much. And then what we can look at doing is adjusting the screws for the vacuum, the amount of vacuum coming in and out of the throttle bodies, so we can get on with that. So if we just look at getting the bike started. Oh. So I've just taken the tank off just to give you a clearer idea of what I'm doing here. So as I just showed you a second ago, we've got the gauges set up here, and then the lines are coming down. Then we've got these little connectors that we've just put in. So we've got one there, another one under there, and then another one here. So we've got all the 4 cylinders linked in. I've replaced this fuel hose because where I lent the tank back, it had actually split part of the fuel hose. So what I'm going to do is put the tank back in place because I need that on to run the bike. So I'm going to rest that up as I had before. I've just got a bonnet prop. So I'm just on the left hand side of the bike here where the clutch lever is, and just underneath the main part of the frame you've got a little sort of wire or tube as such that comes out of the throttle bodies and just clips up into a piece just underneath the part of the frame of the main section there, and then that has got like a Phillips screw head in there, or a piece that you can adjust by using your fingers. So what I'm doing is I'm using that at the moment to adjust the idle of the bike, so I'm getting the idle right before I then look at synchronizing the gauges. As you can see, there's now an arrow on the screen, and that is showing us cylinder 3. So cylinder 3 is the cylinder that we're going to look to sync all of the other throttle bodies to. So we're not going to touch cylinder 3 on the actual throttle body itself. We will be adjusting the bounce on the gauge itself, but we're not actually going to be adjusting the screw on the throttle body. We'll be looking at syncing the other ones to that. So as you can see, we're just working our way through now, just to fine tuning and adjusting each one of these gauges. What we want to ensure is that we do rev the bike now and again, just to make sure that the gauges aren't shut, or the valve on the gauges isn't closed to a point where we're not actually registering properly. So we don't want it bouncing around too much that we can't get an accurate reading, but at the same time we don't want it, as I say, so closed that we're not getting a reading at all from it. So we'll just fine tune those gauges, and then what we can look at doing, once we've got a steady needle on each one of those gauges, we can then start to adjust those. So I'm working my way through adjusting each one of those throttle bodies, but as I mentioned just a moment ago, we're using cylinder 3 as the parent cylinder as such, and we're not adjusting that one. So we'll get all of those other 3 done, get them all synchronized and balanced roughly together. I mean, there's a little bit of tolerance in the manual that you can have a little bit of difference between the two. We can also listen to the bike and see how it sounds when it's running, and again the sort of responsiveness of the throttle, and just see how that behaves. So we'll get all that sorted, put the tank back on, put it all back together as I say, and then we can look at showing you the bike all up and together and finished. So that's it guys, we're now all done. We've managed to get the bike MOT'd, and we've been and put some miles on it. Everything seems to be working fine, and I'm really pleased. As you can see, the bike looks fantastic, everything is done, so it's just a case now of getting out and enjoying it. So if you've enjoyed watching these videos, I hope that you'd like and subscribe to the channel, and hopefully we can get a few more just like this on the channel for you to enjoy. So thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.